You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam, streaming on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Hey, welcome everybody to episode 56 of the DCAU Review. I am your host, Cal. With me, as he always is, my good brother, Liam. Liam, we are in a new month. That means we're kicking off a brand new, well, it's not a brand new series. We're returning to a different series. We had our month of Batman, actually 2 months of Batman. Yes. And now we're going to his counterpart, lighter side, your favorite superhero, back to the world of Metropolis and Superman.
That's right, by God. It's time to get back. Really, and I've always said this, the 80th anniversary of Batman should really be a celebration of Superman, because he has to put up with Batman's crap.
That's one way of looking at it, I suppose. But yeah, so we decided to head back to Metropolis, as we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, giving you a preview of that. Excited to kick off this week. Superman, we haven't been doing in order like we have with Batman Animated Series. We've been jumping around a lot. And as we were trying to decide on the episodes, I gotta admit, I feel like we've covered a lot of the quote-unquote best episodes thus far. There's a few we haven't covered yet. True. But the episodes of Superman that we've yet to cover, I feel like it was a struggle for me to pick from, because I've seen these episodes so many times, because Kids WB replayed them over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, so when it was like the Batman-Superman Adventures, that's how the show aired, so you never really knew which show was going to air. It was just called, the Batman-Superman Adventures is going to air at, let's say, 10:30 a.m. or whatever.
9:30 Central.
Yes, and and it feels like, for whatever reason, more often than not, it would be Superman, and specifically, 5 or 6 episodes. This one actually included, we saw this one a lot growing up. That episode, of course, being Identity Crisis, the first DCAU appearance of Bizarro.
Liam, do you have a synopsis for the fans at home for this week's episode?
I'm so glad you asked, because I do.
In your best announcer voice, as you always do, please.
Superman confronts Bizarro, a far from perfect genetic double of the Man of Steel.
That's it?
That is it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that very, very deep dive into this episode. That's everything that everybody needs to know. Yeah, this is the first appearance in the series of Bizarro. Love him or hate him, he is a Superman rogue that goes way back.
1950s, I believe.
Yeah, and it is a very 50s idea, let's be honest.
Yes.
A backwards version of Superman, coming from a backwards planet, or having the opposite of Superman. He's going to be called... What else would you name him but Bizarro? And he's a cult icon, I would say. He a lot of people know, even if you're not a Superman fan, you likely know who Bizarro is. There's a famous Seinfeld episode where they do a bit where there's a Bizarro version of all of their characters, and Jerry Seinfeld goes into this very long exposition about who Bizarro is, and so a lot of people, even if you don't know who Superman is, you know a lot about Superman's mythos. You probably know Bizarro.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely one of those iconic ones where, if it came up now, you probably wouldn't name him Bizarro. You probably wouldn't give him the backwards S on his suit and stuff, which, to be fair, in this version, he does not have a backwards S. He just has a sort of distorted version of Superman's comics that just kind of appears.
We'll get into that when we talk about visuals.
That's for down the line. But yeah, as far as the plot, beyond our concise synopsis that I read, we see Superman save a kid who is climbing up a power line or something. It's
a great PSA. You and I both paused it and both went into the classic G.I. Joe PSA theme after Superman gives the talking to. It was very, children and guns do not mix. It's exactly what
and it kind of cuts, so you see Superman kind of flying through the city, waving to people. It's a real, beautiful day in Metropolis. And then it cuts to Lois Lane following the cops who are following some criminals. They're in a shootout and while they're driving, and Lois drives so recklessly. Now, of course, we're not exactly supposed to know right away that this Superman we've seen is actually Bizarro, So Lois is driving, she smashes into a guardrail, and who should fly out of the passenger seat and off of a cliff but Clark Kent?
Who's then caught by Superman, who we then... There's some interesting music that we'll talk about there that adds some tension to the scene. But we suddenly realize we're looking at Superman saving Clark Kent, which is not a sight you see every day.
No, in fact, it should technically be a sight that you never see.
Right.
So it certainly it does set up this sort of mystery that they kind of, I guess maybe that's part of the constraints of only having 22 minutes, but they kind of raise some questions and then answer them like 9 seconds later.
I would say the story unravels very, very quickly
and
at a light speed pace.
Yeah, and I'm not even necessarily saying this episode needed to be 2 parts or anything. It's such an interesting setup where you see Superman doing Superman stuff. You establish that all of a sudden that it's not the Superman that we know, but he talks like Superman. You know, Tim Daly's doing the voice.
Right.
He's being friendly with Lois Lane, asks her out on a date, which sort of makes Clark jealous, which I thought was funny.
He's more bold than the real Superman.
Yeah, and so we're setting it up, and then sort of the next scene is the real Superman confronts him, and then his hands and face start to turn white, and seemingly in like an instant, he flies down sort of into this like shadowed area behind a building, and when Superman approaches him now, all of a sudden his body has begun to deform, his teeth are yellow, and his suit, which was a complete perfect replica of Superman's suit moments earlier, is now purple, and the S has sort of changed into like a child's drawing of the Superman S. And with not really much explanation. Again, we're kind of dipping into visuals here a little bit, but
yeah.
From there we find out that he is in fact a clone created by Lex Luthor,
which follows a similar storyline. Lex Luthor cloning Superman is a fairly common trope in the comics.
Yeah, that's how we got one of the Superboys.
One of the Superboys was a Superman, was a clone of Superman created by Lex Luthor. It's something that they go back to quite often in the comics, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it makes sense that Lex would be behind that because he's interested in creating. We find out he's interested in creating his own army of Superman that answer to him.
Sure. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Absolutely.
But that plays too, and we've most recently talked about Lex in Justice League when we reviewed Justice League a few months ago, and there he's, straight up Super Friends evil Lex Luthor, where, as in this show, we're back to him just being the puppet master, the sort of the untouchable villain here, and so there's an evil clone of Superman, not even an evil, a clone of Superman sort of unintentionally wreaking havoc throughout the city. Of course Lex Luthor is behind it. Who else would be?
Right.
But yeah, from there, Bizarro basically, as he keeps losing his mind, tries to fix things that aren't broken. He comes across a demolition site and tries to throw a wrecking ball away and nearly kills a bunch of people at a wedding. A bridge is opening up to let a ship pass through. He presses it back together and then uses his heat vision to melt it so it can't open. And so there's kind of a humorous bit where Superman is just following right behind him and has to keep undoing these near disasters that Bizarro is causing. And then you kind of get to the end where they kind of turn it a little bit and it gets really like kind of sweet and sad a little bit because he finally accepts that he's not the real Superman when he sees Superman save Lois. And then he allows Superman and Lois to escape and lets the building sort of collapse around him. And you sort of realize at the end that he did still have this heart of a hero, even though his mind had sort of gone. His heart was still in the right place at the end. Yeah,
it's a redemption story for a character that wasn't evil to begin with. He was just confused.
Right.
And yeah, I don't have a lot to say about the plot other than because it's a ridiculous villain. Mm-hmm. The villain is ridiculous.
Sure.
It's bizarre. It's Bizarro. It's backwards Superman. He does the opposite of, like, in the comics, he literally speaks backwards.
I guess that's a question then. Would you have preferred he come from a cubed Earth? And what would, like, do you, at least like that part of it, do you find that at least a little more interesting to make him a little more sympathetic?
No, I think this character is a comedy is a comedy character, and that's I don't know. It's hard. it's hard because he's not evil. He's not an evil character, and even in this series, he's not portrayed as an evil character. Later down the line, he's tricked by Mixius Spitlick into doing things that are bad, and then beyond that, I think there's even another episode where he comes back and he fights Superman. And he's tricked by Luthor, I think.
Yeah,
so he's just dumb.
He's like a really dumb guy who's sort of in search of a purpose, and because he turns out he's not actually Superman, he doesn't really know what that purpose is. So it's like they're trying at least to give him layers beyond just being backwards Superman, beyond just being evil Superman. So I appreciated them trying some stuff. Now, you're right, because his subsequent appearances in the series, and even when he pops up a couple times in Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited, is very generally comedic. Those are lighter episodes, and this one kind of takes a different tactic in that it tries to really make you feel sorry for him by the end, and like kind of it's kind of a downer ending with him sort of letting himself be blown up to save the real Superman and Lois.
Yeah, like I said, it's weird because it's a redemption angle for a guy who really doesn't need redemption. He's just dumb. Like, he's just not a smart creation. Like, they talk about his DNA breaking down. His brain is broken. And because he's not a real human being, there's no real need for redemption. He didn't do anything wrong except be who he is.
He got a little frustrated with Superman and punched him a couple times.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But he's not a malicious villain. No, so a non-malicious villain that gets a redemption arc, to me, I don't know.
Would it have been better, do you think, if they had waited to do the full Bizarro transition, and like maybe that's like the end of the episode, and like so he's more just like losing, like it's just a regular Superman kind of losing his mind slowly? Like, if they had drawn it out a little longer, would it have been better, or maybe
I don't know. I think it's just I'm not a Bizarro character fan.
That's fine.
I'm not a fan of the character. I think it's a goofy. You said it came out of the 50s. It's a 1950s goofy, came from a square planet, like
right.
Goofy origin story that fits for that time period. I just don't think that it works here in this time period or even in this series very well. It's just it also doesn't fit with the Lex Luthor character very well. There's a weird dynamic between the two of them where I don't know. I didn't care for it. Now that said, I didn't think it was the worst episode of Superman that I've seen. I went with a score of 5 out of 10 for plot. It's middle of the road. There are parts that you might chuckle at or parts that you can enjoy, but just I'm not a huge fan of this episode. What was your score for plot?
Yeah, I went 6 out of 10, so right around the same score there. I like that they tried to do something with a character that didn't really do much beyond that visual. We talk about that a lot when we review these Batman stories with characters like Mad Hatter or Mr. Freeze, who were kind of just gimmicks who could appear in a comic and didn't really have a lot of depth to them. Like, they tried something here, and I think we're both in agreement that they didn't exactly hit a home run here, but I feel like maybe they hit a single. Like, I feel like they got on base with this. Like, I think they at least they added something, and that definitely appears in later episodes with Bizarro, sort of his longing to find purpose now that he knows he isn't the real Superman.
Sure. So
I think this works as a setup for that character for his sort of less serious, more comedic appearances down the road.
My last thought, and then we'll move on to our next category, is just that I have a hard time accepting that because he's then tricked. Like, they just continue to play off of this fact that he's just not a smart character because he's tricked into doing bad things in the next 2 appearances in this episode.
Yeah.
So you're then made again to feel like he's a villain, but he's not. He's just guilty of being not very smart. He's guilty of being like George from Of Mice and Men.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, he's just naive. Like, that's what he is. So it's of no fault and I don't want to root against or, need a redemption arc for a guy that it's not really his fault that things have happened that way. That's my 2 cents. Off my soapbox. On to the next category. Let's talk about visual and animations, Liam. I think, for me, this was the highest scored for this episode, and to me it was the most effective. I felt everybody was pretty on model. There may have been one or two scenes where Lois's eyes looked a little strange, I think. But generally speaking, everybody looked on model. Luther looked okay. There's not a whole lot to it. The design of Bizarro, again, I'm not a fan of the Bizarro character, but as far as the design goes, I think for this series, it's good. It's not just white-skinned version of Superman. He does have the, disjointed teeth and the hunchback and the crossed leg, or the bow legs, and the arms that are kind of zombie-ish.
Yeah, the disheveled hair.
I think as a design piece, they did a good job with it. Now, we did have a question regarding how he goes from the perfect Superman episode, or Superman uniform, to this purple thing in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
You think it's part of... My only explanation was it's part of his skin. Like, they designed it like it's not an actual uniform.
The suit grows out of his skin?
Yeah, and it's just distorting based on the fact that, like, he doesn't have to change his clothes because he's a clone. So the clone was cloned with the uniform as his skin.
I mean, that's my theory. That's definitely some headcanon. Like, that's definitely some stuff you got to make up for yourself, because they don't even attempt to explain it or even mention it. So yeah, I get. I mean, that makes as much sense as anything. But no, I like the design of Bizarro overall. I think some of the visuals, as far as the rest of the episode, where when they show like the rest of the clones of Superman, who I guess are still incubating in their tubes, and Bizarro starts to destroy the lab, and there's a shot of him sort of looking at the rest of the people in the room, and it's him, and then all the clones behind him, and then there's fire shooting up behind them. Like, I thought that was a pretty interesting visual. And then
I like the scene where he throws the wrecking ball crane.
Yeah,
spins it around and hurls it by the
because I feel like that happens in a lot of Superman stuff, where he like has to take a plane or a helicopter or something, throw it in the water.
You and I growing up, like in our you're under 10 or and I'm 12 or 13 when this show is on the air. We would always joke about that, how Superman, there must just be the rivers of Metropolis are just flowing with these machines, planes. Because all Superman does is take whatever machinery is flying through the air and hurl it into the river.
Yeah, like, I hope he fishes it out later. Or...
I hope he doesn't. I hope there's just a massive...
the bottom of the rivers of Metropolis, there's just wrecked planes and helicopters.
They're just overflowing. There's all the fish are just mutated because of or dead because of it's cartoon animals. It's not real animals. Get out of here. Yeah, I did like the animation though for this episode. I think it was strong, notwithstanding the lack of explanation for Bizarro's change. I went a 7 out of 10, which is a pretty strong one for this episode. What about you?
Yeah, I went 8 out of 10. I think it's very, very good, and I liked some of the basic visuals of just Superman in this episode, of him as the bridge has been forcibly closed and the ship is barreling towards it, and Superman has to get in between the bridge and the ship, and he's got one hand on the ship and one hand against the bridge, and he's kind of pushing off. I thought
it was very Max Fleischer.
Yes, they did a lot of cool things. At one point, Bizarro grabs the logo, the planet of the Daily Planet, and throws it off the building at Superman. Superman has to bring it back up on top of the building and then like melt the surface with his heat vision so it'll stay. And I thought they did some creative stuff, as we mentioned in plot, of Superman kind of having to keep following behind all this unintentional havoc that Bizarro is creating. So I thought that was another strength of it. But yeah, I went 8 out of 10 with mine.
Cool. All right, let's move on to music, Liam. We have... I don't know. I don't remember. I was just so, I guess, somewhat irritated by this episode that I didn't pay attention too much to the music. There is some music, but I don't remember Bizarro having a specific theme, which would have been interesting.
He does. It's the Superman theme played in a very minor key, like in a weird minor key.
Okay.
And it's played very flat.
Okay. Which makes sense because it's
like if the Superman. It's like if the Superman theme was played in a horror movie,
right?
Like it's Frank, because he's Frankenstein Superman basically. Right. So that works for that. But it's used a few times here. I feel like it's used more in the subsequent episodes when he appears, but
it wasn't enough for me to notice it. That means that
that's fair.
That doesn't mean anything. Like I said, I was already in an irritated mood watching this episode because of the just absurdity of it. But yeah, what did you? I mean, any other music
beyond
notes
that
you took note of?
Not really. Just there's a little bit at the end when when the building's collapsing around them. There's sort of some heroic music as Bizarro makes his little sacrifice, but beyond that, there really wasn't a ton of that really stands out. I gave music 6 out of 10 just because I did like the idea of using basically the same Superman theme but playing it in a different key as the Bizarro theme. I think that's a creative idea, especially when you're doing a mirror image episode, an Evil Twin episode. So I liked that. It's certainly not one of the strongest ones of the series, but I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I gave it 5 out of 10. I kind of already gave my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all you need to know. It's okay. I didn't notice it a whole lot. I was irritated. Didn't notice it. Let's move to our final category, which is our voice acting. Liam, this week we have a small cast.
Yeah.
Well, we have one character that plays 2 characters, so that takes up that does a lot of the voice
no
work.
kidding. We have a few random voices doing background characters, but our main our heavy lifters are the main cast. It's Dana Delaney as Lois Lane, Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor, and Tim Daly as both Superman and Bizarro. Mm-hmm. I think Tim Daly's great in this. Yeah. I think because, and again, if it is like, again, this is kind of something you joke about. It's like Bizarro's voice in this is just me and Superman a lot, and that is true.
But and we're judging on voice acting, not the writing of the dialogue.
Right. And also, it's like, but there's a good nuance in his voice of when he's sort of struggling with understanding that he's a clone, understanding that the real Superman is who he is, and I think there's good nuance. And I think maybe that's something we've talked about in the past with Tim Daly's Superman, is that sometimes there isn't a lot of inflection or a lot of different emotion. He's something of a monotone voice. It's just how he speaks. But I thought this was a chance for him to really kind of flex his muscles, stretch his legs, whatever metaphor you want to use, for his voice acting chops to play both leads here.
Yeah, it's interesting that his most chemistry that he has shown. I mean, there's some chemistry with him and Dana Delaney, but they're really the episodes that we've reviewed so far. I don't think there's a lot of exploration of that we've really gone into depth on. This episode, ironically, his best foil is himself. I would agree with you in that he's allowed to kind of, I don't know if it's because of Superman's reaction to another version of himself, but this is also in the second volume of DVDs, so could be season 2-ish.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit, he's further into his run and is a little more comfortable with the voice itself.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I would agree with you on that this performance of the Superman episodes we've covered so far, Apocalypse Now, there's a great performance in Apocalypse Now towards the end. But I think that this does a great showcase for him, and ironically, like we said, his foil is himself. Yeah, I think that Clancy Brown, of course, we talked about, he's in a significant portion of the episode, but he's not given a whole lot to say.
Yeah. But
what he says is impactful because it's Clancy freaking Brown, man.
Delivers a lot of Lex-position in this episode.
It's good. Yeah. Man, trademark that thing. We'll put a trademark on that. Hashtag Lex-position.
Verbal trademark. You can't have it.
You can't have it. It's ours. It's so good. I ended up scoring this. I think Dana Delaney's pretty strong too.
Yeah.
I think that she evokes some good emotion in her trying to, be the King Kong, the whatever King Kong's foil is. Who's King Kong's
woman.
Foil? Woman. Blonde woman. The foil to...
Is it Jane? No, that's Tarzan.
That's Tarzan. It could be Tarzan and Jane, though.
Let's go with that.
The Jane to Tarzan. Yeah, because King Kong's super racist. So let's go back... It is.
It is. You're not wrong.
It's super racist. So let's go with Tarzan and Jane. So also probably somewhat racist, but Yeah, and we're not going to do it.
Anyway,
so the Jane to the Tarzan character, if you
yes.
will, the uneducated person that doesn't quite understand but is in love with or clearly is attracted to this character. Yeah. So she does a great job with that. I gave voice acting 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I also went with 7 out of 10 for my voice acting score.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I think Tim Daly, like we said, is really strong. And beyond that, there's not really a lot to talk about as far as trivia or anything goes. So, yeah, I guess as we're wrapping up here, we can give our final scores.
Yep.
My final score is 27 out of 40.
Mine is a lower, but not disagreement alarm worthy, 24 out of 40.
All right.
And
I guess we can start talking about rewatchability here.
Of course we can. And I would say, as far as rewatchability is concerned, I would say it is okay to skip this episode. However, if you're a completist, sure, you want to know about how Bizarro's origins come about in Superman the Animated Series, then sure. If you're looking to be the completist, if you just want to jump around like us, like if we had jumped around and honestly covered the second Bizarro episode with Mixia Spitlick or the third one, or the second one, Bizarro's World, before we covered this, I think we would have been okay.
Probably.
But if you want to be a completist and watch the entire series, sure, go ahead and see it. But don't rush out. Don't go out of your way. Don't put yourself...
If you're on a best of Superman the Animated Series run, and you're looking for the cream of the crop, this is not one that you need to watch.
No, definitely not. Definitely wouldn't crap the crap. Wouldn't crack. Jeez, wouldn't crap the top 20 either. Wouldn't crack my top 20 favorite episodes of Superman.
It's not in the bottom 20 either, though. To be fair, because we might get to one or two later in the month.
We're trying to figure out which of the worst. We're going to put up a poll and figure out which of the worst episodes are what we consider to be some of the worst episodes that you would like to hear us review, because there are some stinkers out there.
Yes.
But yeah, excited to talk about that. Let's wrap it up. Liam, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. We thank you for all the feedback that you've given. Congratulations to our winner of our Batman Almost Got Him game. Super glad to get that given away. We're still looking to increase our followers, so we're going to start a new contest coming up soon where we'll give something else away. It'll be a Twitter contest. We'll give out some details once we figure that out in the next couple weeks. But keep following us on Twitter. Liam runs our Twitter account at DCAU Review. We love discussing these episodes. Maybe you love this episode and you think that I'm crazy for not caring for this episode. Shoot Liam a tweet and tell him how wrong I am. I would love to have a verbal debate with you regarding that. You can also go ahead and leave a 5-star review for us on iTunes. That helps us out immensely. It takes a bit of time to do so. You got to log into your iTunes account and all that stuff, or your iCloud, or whatever you iPhone people do. Log into it and go ahead and leave us a review. It helps us out. We appreciate it if you do. Anything to add, Liam?
No, that's pretty much it. Definitely tweet at us. Let us know what other episodes. As we said, we don't go in order with Superman, so you have some suggestions. I'm definitely going to do a poll for what we'll discuss amongst ourselves a few options, and then we'll put up the poll, and you guys can help us decide which of the bad episodes of Superman we'll review. Because we were talking about this off the air, but if we just review all the good ones up front, the third or fourth time we decide to do a month of Superman, it's going to be all bad, and we're going to just be miserable.
It's going to be Lightner, Unity,
Superman's pal.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
There are some real stinkers out there.
So we gotta cut the good ones, or even the all right ones, with some of the stinkers every once in a while, since we're not going in order.
Gotta face the music.
That's right.
All right. I'm Cal.
And I'm Liam.
And we will talk to you on the very next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.